Hey everybody, Gesha here. So even before any articles were published about a potential Trilogy remaster, I had already made 3 videos, one for each of the original games, where I showed an improvised remaster through the use of mods. Today we'll be focusing only on the GTA 3 one and seeing exactly how it stacks up to the official upgrade. Everything mentioned plus the mods list will be linked in the description, and simultaneously I'm also uploading 20 minutes of uncut gameplay using the modded game that you can find below as well. Probably the biggest advantage of the new versions is their graphics, and from the very start of the game we see the lighting in the Definitive Edition, as expected, is much more polished and sophisticated, but that does not mean the modded original falls too far behind. In fact, the vehicle reflections here are using a far more accurate technology than the ones in the Definitive Edition that merely replicate what's on the screen. Shadows for vehicles and pedestrians are mostly comparable in terms of how they are casted, although the new ones can also react to emissive sources like car headlights and street lamps. The environmental lighting is where the Definitive Edition really shines, quite literally, with the way sun bounces off the windows of high-rise buildings, the way light spreads on the PBR materials, the beautiful explosions and how they illuminate everything around them, lightnings during a storm, it all looks incredible. The modded game sadly only has static environmental lighting, determined by pre-light and textures. And even then I would say it does a solid job at creating the illusion of proper illumination. Shadows appear where you would expect them to appear, tight spaces are drenched in darkness, and for the old engine it's probably more than enough. And the funny, or in this case sad part, is that this is pretty much where the advantages of the Definitive Edition over the modded game end. You see, GTA 3 has a very dark atmosphere. The game is taking place during autumn season. It's cold and distasteful, the sun never shines as bright, and the cooler tones in the colors exacerbate that feeling. Even during sunny weather, the blue tint doesn't suggest warmth. Fog is thick and suffocating, and in it buildings seem to stretch into eternity. At night, light fills the air and paints with color the otherwise monotone void. And then there's the Definitive Edition, and it feels like you're in paradise again. Colors are bright and saturated, the sky is almost the same as that of tropical Vice City. Even more, there's barely any difference between sunny and cloudy weather, and fog is not foggy at all. Please tell me, apart from the 3 colors, exactly what part suggests that it's not in fact summer? Not to mention that in the modded game we can even add a snowfall weather, which additionally amplifies the feeling of late fall and early winter. And this new generic look stretches far beyond the weathers because it also takes away from the otherwise great retexturing. As you know, Liberty City is supposed to be a decrepit and gritty place, and the crumbling buildings, graffiti painted walls and other imperfections perfectly represent that. Luckily, in both versions we have a full-blown map retexture that retains that scaly feel of the city. Quality has variations in both versions, but in general looks good enough not to bother you. That is, until you look at the roads in the Definitive Edition and you wonder whose bright idea it was to put the cleanest, most expensive looking roads ever, especially in areas like Portland that is supposed to be the bad part of town. They're great for the wealthy city center, yes, but you see these modern roads surrounded by buildings with falling paints and faded colors. It literally sticks out so much because it is out of place and it ruins the immersion. Also, Newport has many lower quality neighborhoods that I especially love for the contrast they provide. In the modded game, those look harsh and uninviting. In the new version, that grittiness has been partially lost. Alright, I'm gonna take a second to calm down here, so in the meantime, if you enjoyed the video, then feel free to give it a thumbs up. Look, I love the small new details like garbage or leaves on the ground. The parallax interiors are a huge addition and very dramatically improve the world. But it makes me wonder, you have bothered to add fake interiors to basically every building in the city, but didn't think to at least make a few real ones as well? With the mods, I can go into my hideout and save the game there. I can watch downtown from my apartment window that I go to using an elevator. There are so many places that you can visit and enter. It might not sound like such a big thing, but the difference between imagining what something could be hiding behind a door and actually stepping in and seeing it for yourself does make a difference. It enriches the world and gives it more depth. Not to mention that if modders could do it, then why couldn't you, and maybe even better than them? I also don't understand adding new content for the expense of old one. Why the movie theater closing during the day and opening at night was removed? Why the iconic puddles in downtown were removed? Why the ones at the Stoughton safe house look so awfully bad? This is a definitive edition. You're supposed to only be adding more content, and considering that apart from graphics there really isn't much more value to these games, you certainly don't have the luxury of removing stuff that was already working just fine. On the other hand, I think they have really struck gold with the vegetation in the new version. I actually don't mind some of the GTA 5 assets, cause as a whole it fits nicely, and as I already mentioned, the orange and yellow colors of the trees match perfectly the fall setting. The new grass is beautiful, and I love how it actually moves when you step on it. With the mods we do have autumn vegetation, but it's really not on par with the definitive quality. Although here we can take things a step further by adding these unique looking falling leaves to the trees. Vehicles, as expected, are much better in the modded game. The ones in the definitive edition have only seen small improvements done to them, like changing the wheels, but the engines, for example, are still only using a texture, and the interiors haven't even been touched. Compare this to the complete remodels created from scratch in the modded game that not only have 3D engines but also beautiful new interiors, and you have yourself a clear winner. Not only that, but with the mods, tires are burstable, windshields are breakable and you can shoot someone through them, and bailing out of a moving vehicle, although not looking as fancy, is also possible. You can't do any of that in the definitive edition as far as my testing goes, which is almost laughable considering these are things available in the other two games. Additionally, with the mods we see a return of the originally intended blue-colored police cars, and on top of that we have aircrafts. Yeah, there's helicopters, there's planes, and each one is different and they have different functionalities, and most importantly, they fly well. It's not like the original Dodo that you would only use once and then never again. In the modded game, this is a legit means of transportation. Again, why something that is available in the other two games and was made by modders wasn't included in a definitive edition? Well, if I had to guess, it's probably because then they would have had to make collisions for all the buildings, which of course requires quite a bit of additional work. Just like installing all these mods, so if you have trouble with that, I have a Discord server that is linked below where you can come and ask for help. I guess alongside the aircrafts we're starting to veer into gameplay territories, so let's just quickly mention that in both the modded and new version there's GPS navigation, in both we have a map, actually two map mods, a freely movable vehicle and on-foot camera, walking, and achievements. Believe it or not, those did exist before as well. However, with the mods you can also take cover, do the Mr. Whoopi minigame from Vice City, buy health from coffee stands, destroy air trains, improve ammunition with more weapons to choose from, improve car handling, and pretty much whatever else mods you can find. So yeah, that's quite a bit of additional content if you ask me. I won't bother too much with the characters because, as you know, this is not exactly the Trilogy's strong suit, as most things so far, but in both we have proper whole body models with separate fingers. However, only in the modded game the hands are actually animated. And as a whole, the characters in the definitive edition lack a humanly expression, and while being superior from a technical standpoint with more polygons and higher quality textures, they are not more detailed than the modded ones, which also look way better anyway. In fact, the only character that I like more in the new version is Claude himself, because I think they have done a really nice job with remodeling him. Pedestrians, I dare to say, are much better in the new versions. Regardless of all the memes, I'd say that this is one part that has more good than bad, and I love the varying textures. Lastly, about the effects, I think the definitive edition has a slight edge here, but that is mainly due to the new lighting. With the mods we have some additional ones like blood droplets and water droplets on the screen that actually move relative to your speed and camera position. And we do have stars in the sky, LED lights and road reflections. And this concludes our comparison, the results from which I'd say don't really whisper in favor of the definitive edition, and that is without me even mentioning all the issues that I ran into while making this video. So that's where we will leave it. As always, subscribe for more content, check my second channel and socials below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.